First things first, I'll have you do a little introduction for yourself. So who
Yeah.
are you?
Hi, I'm Clark. I am someone who lives in California with my partner and my kitty cat. And in my free time, I like to watch like animated Netflix shows. Like Arcane is coming out soon,
Ooh.
and I'm very excited. And then I like reading. I think I said that, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's who I am in a nutshell. I am a podcast host as well, which Lexy knows, but
hmm Yeah, I was recently on your podcast. What's the name of your podcast for everyone?
Chronically the Sickest, because we are chronically the sickest people we know.
I love that. Yeah, everybody go check out her podcast as well. It's great. You have like a variety of chronic illnesses on there. What was your most recent one?
My most recent one was periodic paralysis, which I found out is not as the name suggests. So,
Okay, cool. Yeah. Everyone go listen to that one because that sounds interesting to me. I know I like that you cover like a variety of chronic illnesses and like the space. It's just very, you can learn a lot about a lot of different things going on.
yeah, it is definitely fun to learn from guests rather than,
hmm
they show up and I'm like, I thought I knew what I was going to be hearing today, and I had no idea.
Yeah. I know, and everybody's so different. My cat is like actively trying to get on my lap right now. Go.
You're good. Mine keeps scratching at the door, so I keep looking over. Just,
Yeah. Cats. Okay, so I know that you have a couple diagnoses. I never
diagnoses.
diagnoses. Okay. Every time I like second guess myself on what the correct pronunciation is for that. But I know you have quite a few. So do you want to let us know what those are?
Yeah. Um, sorry, that was such an eye roll, but it wasn't at you. It was at my life. So I have what's called my big three and my little three.
hmm
So my big three are endometriosis, fibromyalgia, and heart disease. And then my little three are migraines, IST, and IBS. So,
Okay. Heart disease. What?
uh,
Explain, elaborate.
so I have coronary artery disease, but I
Oh,
specifically
wow.
have coronary vasospasms. So I am living the dream where it just feels like I'm having a heart attack every once in a while,
Oh
but
my
in fact,
God.
it's just my heart not functioning correctly, which is fun.
Yeah. How did you, when did you find out that you had that? That's scary.
Oh yeah, I feel like it was scarier to have providers tell me it was heart palpitations for years, so that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to being chronically ill. They always tell you it's anxiety. Uh, yeah, I found out a couple of years ago from my cardiologist. We did a lot of tests like ECGs and EKGs and stress tests and delta tests and all the tests. So,
Yeah.
yeah, weird to be 20 something and in menopause and have heart disease. I feel like I'm 40.
I know. I did we'll go into more your menopause situation, but I did Orlissa, like the chemical menopause for a while, and yeah, we'll talk all about that because I did not have a fun time with that. But what's like your treatment look like for your heart disease right now? Do you have that like kind of under control or?
That's a great question. I am doing a couple of like holistic approaches, like just trying to strengthen my heart. Like one of the things I do is drink beet juice to keep like my blood pressure down
Hmm.
because that's a huge component of heart disease. And then I'm also on cardizem, which like helps strengthen your heart and allow the blood to flow more smoothly through your
Yeah.
arteries. So,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have a mitral valve prolapse, but they don't do anything for it. They're like, well, It doesn't, as long as it's not causing you symptoms. But the funny thing is, when I got diagnosed with it, I was having really high heart rates, tachycardia, and like literally over 200 just walking. And I'm like, I am having symptoms. And they're like, oh, well, that's probably not related to the prolapse. And I'm like, that doesn't, I'm like, okay, well, why is it then? And anxiety is what they said. And I'm like, but I'm okay, whatever. Basically they were like, the only time that your prolapse might have an issue is when you're pregnant, like at some point, because, or if you do become pregnant, because pregnancy puts a lot of strain on your heart. And when you already have a prolapse, then, and I'm like, okay, so like what happens then? They're like, we'll talk about it when it happens. And I'm like, great, cool, I guess. So I kind of just, yeah, sometimes I get like weird, like fluttery feelings, and I'm like, am I gonna die right now? Am I gonna like keel over? Cool. But no, I'm not doing anything for it. I just,
Just chilling.
yeah, just chilling. Anyways, that's why I was curious about your heart stuff because I was like, huh, I wonder what you're doing for that. But okay, moving more into the endo world, can you tell me a little bit about your like diagnosis journey and like how long ago was that? When did you get diagnosed with endo?
Great question. Also, I kind of love that you called it Endo World. It kind of made me feel like it was an amusement park that no one wants to go to.
We should create that. That'd be kind of fun. It's
Trademark
just,
pending.
yeah, just for people with endo. They can come and they can just chill with all of our heating pads and not go on rides because that does not sound enjoyable, but have like a big like pit with blankets and heating pads. That sounds great.
Sounds like a giant sleepover. Sorry, but yes, I apologize. I fully got distracted and was like, "How fun!" And
I know. I think that would
endometriosis
be fun.
amusement park. I don't. Oh my god. Can you tell that I'm neurodivergent? Weird. Uh, so my endometriosis journey, I got diagnosed in 2022, but obviously, like most people, I experienced symptoms right before that. It's
Hmm.
average diagnosis time of 7 years, so
Hmm.
super fun. But yeah, I started getting symptoms when I was probably like maybe like 12. But I mean, everyone always thinks that it's just regular period pain, that
Hmm.
passing out on your period is normal, throwing up on your period is normal, all of the pain,
Hmm.
normal, which is not true. And I know that now, but when I was younger, it was very much like my mom's side of the family has anemia.
Hmm.
And so we kind of just like use that as like a blanket statement. That's why you feel so terrible on your period, is because you are iron deficient. And that's also why all of these other symptoms are happening.
Yeah.
Found out later I'm not iron deficient. So I am
Yeah.
fine. But I know that's the case for a lot of people is
Hmm. I mean, yeah, that's like fairly common for women just because like you're bleeding. So the assumption is like you're losing iron, so you might be iron deficient. But and women have higher chances of being anemic because of that. But honestly, though, a lot of us aren't. Like if you go, it's just like this. I remember in high school, people would just say they're anemic. Like they'd be like, "Oh yeah, like I'm anemic this week. I'm on my period." And I'm like, "That's not how that works. Like you're not only anemic this week." I'm like,
no.
no."
I had someone say that they had sickle cell anemia in my PE class, and I was like, "That's wild!" And I was like, "I have anemia." And so I went home and I googled it, and I was like, "Oh, they don't have sickle cell anemia." I don't know what we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that people, especially in high school, like they would like hear things and be like, "Oh, like I have that or I have that or I'm cold all the time, so I have anemia." And I'm like, "No." Because that is a symptom also is like bad blood circulation and they'd be like, "Oh, my hands and feet are cold all the time, so I'm anemic." I don't know if that was just my high school, but I swear to God, like all the girls were like, "Yeah." I'm sure some of them did, but not definitely not everybody.
it was cool and quirky to be anemic. Come on, like,
Yeah.
the times.
I know. I guess so. Okay, yeah. So you had these symptoms starting at like 12. And then when did you got diagnosed in 2022? So like what did your appointments look like leading up to that? A lot of this is normal. But then when did you actually start pushing towards a diagnosis?
Well, my family is very much the kind of family that does not like to go to the doctor and very
Mm-hmm.
much just kind of pushes things under the rug a little bit. So I didn't really go to the doctor a ton growing up. And of course, that also contributed to my parents just thinking everything was anemia, which, mind you, is not how that works. But
Yeah.
when I turned 18, I like finally was like, I need to go to the doctors. Like, there's so many things going on with my body that need an explanation. And my endometriosis diagnosis and that journey kind of intertwines with when I turned 18. I, for my birthday present, went to Planned Parenthood and was looking to get my tubes tied at 18. And so a lot of that endometriosis journey and wanting to be sterilized were very much like they coincided in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up in Planned Parenthood on my 18th birthday, being like, okay, so like, how much is this going to cost? What are the different ways that I could do this? And when I kind of figured out that process, I started looking more into getting a hysterectomy. And
Yeah.
that is what led me to my OB, who those appointments turned into, I think you have endometriosis. So
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, can I ask like why at 18 you were like, I want to get my tubes tied? Like this is the choice that I want to make. Like what? You also don't have to answer that, but
there's a lot of answers, and not all of them get to be on the internet. But
mm-hmm.
one of the reasons was just I have a very large family,
Mm-hmm.
and like my dad has 11 siblings. I have like
Oh
30
wow.
something cousins, and like I've grown up around kids. I'm the oldest in my family. I am the third parent, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
All the oldest children out there, like, yes, nodding my head.
I know I have four younger brothers, so I get it. Yeah.
Yikes. See, and they're all boys, so I feel like that's
Mm-hmm.
yikes. I'm so sorry. God bless you. I have two sisters and a brother. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I grew up knowing that I didn't want to be a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and that I felt like I had already parented these other people, and then on top of that, I have a really hard time regulating my emotions. And so
Mm-hmm.
on top of knowing that I didn't want to be a parent, I also knew that I wouldn't be a good parent. I would like to think that I could gentle parent and I could undo bad things that I learned from my childhood and like break generational curses. But like, if my cat chews on something, I start crying. So I
Yeah.
really think that I could be a stable parental figure. And so I turned 18 and was like, I'm going to the doctor's office. I am fighting with doctors. We're going to figure out A, what's wrong with my body, and B, we're taking out
Mm-hmm.
all of my organs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm proud of you for knowing like what you want at such a young age. Like a lot of people don't know for like a long time. And honestly, also when you have really horrendous periods like what you went through, there's got to be like a little bit of that reasoning pulling into it too. And yeah, I mean, I have known that I've wanted kids from a very young age. Like I'm the oldest in, well, I'm like the second oldest like of my cousins family, but I'm in like the oldest, we're like a month apart. So
Yes.
and then the oldest daughter, oldest sibling, all that stuff. And I was definitely like the third parent, but I feel like that almost like a little like different. Like I was like, oh, I'm just really good at taking care of kids. Like I've been changing diapers since I was like 10. Like I can do this. and I've always wanted babies. So then I was told when I was like 19 that by my gyno, she was like, we should just do a hysterectomy. Like, you want to go to, at the time, I wanted to go to medical school. And she was like, you won't get through medical school like this with your endometriosis and, like, blah, blah, blah. And was like very insistent on doing that. And I was like, no, like, that is not fair for you. Like, I don't want to do that. So, and it felt like it's weird because I feel like we have like opposite. Like, a lot of times you have to like fight for that. And I had my doctor being like, we should do that. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I want kids. I'm like, what? She's like, well, we can freeze your eggs and you can get a surrogate. And I'm like, that maybe in the future, I might do that in the future. I don't know if I have like fertility issues or something, but if I'm able to have them myself, I would like to do that. And I'm just like, what is happening? So, yeah, just interesting how we're like similar, but opposite at the same time.
Yeah. No, that's very not funny, haha, funny, weird, but still funny.
Yeah, funny, weird. Um, okay, so you started out at Planned Parenthood and then you got your way into an OB. And we started this process at like 18. So and you got diagnosed with endo at like 22. So like how did this transform? Did you just go into your OB and you were like, I want all this out of me?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there was a couple of, doctor's appointments and fighting
Mm-hmm.
with doctors to
Mm-hmm.
be like, from Planned Parenthood to my amazing OB, Dr. Sai, there was quite a couple doctors that I had to like, hey, something is wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
B, this is informed consent. I can do whatever I want with my body. And if you want
Yeah.
to stand in the way of that, fine, I'll go to someone else. But you don't get to say no. That's not how this works.
Yeah.
But I mean, they can say no, but
Yeah.
it's silly. I like walked in there with my giant binder of information that was like, so the statistical likelihood of surgical regret is merely three. Like I was like sitting here with my whiteboard. They're like, okay, and I finally found a doctor that was like, fine, like I will sign off on your OB referral. Like this is an
hmm
amazing doctor. And she told me, she goes, and the doctor's kind of young, so I feel like she might actually listen to you. And I thought that was funny because I was like,
Yeah, there you go.
you're looking out for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I ended up going to that OB, and she's like one of my favorite doctors. I walked in there and I was like, gearing up for my fight. I was like, oh, my adrenaline was going. And I was like, I think I have endometriosis and I want a hysterectomy and I need your help
hmm
because I was like, I realized I didn't just want my tubes tied because I knew that there was a lot of complications that could come from that. And I also knew I never wanted kids. So I was like, just take it out because
hmm
like you mentioned, being in pain all the time had a really big impact on me, and
hmm
I was like bleeding all the time when I wasn't on my period and in pain all the time. I like have long nails and I would be sitting at work and I would just be digging my nails into my hand, and
Yeah.
I was over
Ouch.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay. Wow. All right. So how long ago was this surgery?
so 2022 is when I got my hysterectomy out, and yeah,
Okay.
that doctor was amazing. She like immediately was like, yes, like let's do that. Like I believe you. Let's get you scheduled. And I was
hmm
scheduled for my surgery like 6 weeks later. So I
hmm
got my uterus removed and my endometriosis diagnosis in November of 2022.
Okay. Cool. And I mean, when they did this, did they also like do an ablation or like an excision or anything to get out some of if there was endo like outside of your uterus or anything?
Yeah. So my doctor did an excision,
hmm
and yes, okay. I was like trying to think. I'm like thinking about my chart notes,
Yeah.
but yeah. she did an excision, and there was like a lot like behind my uterus and
Mm-hmm.
like around my bowel and like
Yeah.
my abdominal wall, which is pretty common.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I was just curious because I have um talked with one person. I mean, I've heard of other women getting a hysterectomy and then still having like some endo symptoms because they might not have like gotten it all out. Um, and I personally know one woman who had a history. She's in her 50s and she has endometriosis symptoms still, like post hysterectomy. So I was just like curious if they, did an excision as well, like to kind of try to mitigate some of that. But I mean, it's been, yeah, like 2 years since this. So how have you been doing post surgery? I know it's
like,
kind of a loaded question.
like great, thank you. It's a trick question, and there is a right answer. No, uh, yeah, I am doing a lot better than I was. I don't regret my hysterectomy. I still think it was a good choice, and I definitely am in a lot less pain than before. Before I was
Hmm.
like, I most of my days were between like an 8 and 9 on the pain scale, just all the time.
Hmm.
And now I like rarely get above like a 6, which is amazing. I wish it was
Yeah.
0, but like uh 6 months after my hysterectomy surgery, I got my ovaries out in a separate surgery because I was still having a lot of pain, and it was
Yeah.
because all of the ovarian cysts and the I had a tumor in my ovary, which was kind of fun,
Oh,
that
wow.
they found, which it was one of, the mucinous cystoderma, which is the ones that like can grow like bigger than a watermelon or like a small
Oh my
child.
God.
And so like I I went in for a second surgery, and she took my ovaries out. She goes, "Oh, thank goodness we did that because we would not have caught that until it was wreaking
Yeah,
havoc on your organs."
like
So
gonna rupture your ovary.
yeah, which is why I was like, all right, glad we did that. But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
much better now that I mean, it's frustrating because now I like to joke, I don't have any more organs to take out. So I'm going to need my body to figure it out. I know that like excision would be helpful, and I'm probably
Hmm.
looking at doing another one within the next year, but
Hmm.
like I'm doing much better.
Yeah. I mean, we could take out a couple more organs. We can take out like your spleen, your appendix, gallbladder, a kidney. We could get a few more for sure.
If those are going to help my endo symptoms, I will. I'll take out whatever organs I want.
Um, okay, so 6 months after you got your ovaries out, and then what did life look like after that? Like, I mean, personally speaking, I feel like I would have like some emotions about that. Like, did you feel that way, or were you just more like happy that you got that? And because this has been something you'd been wanting for a long time.
I think I was happier and more hopeful after my first surgery, where I was just having a hysterectomy, because I was like, okay, 2 months of healing time, and then I'm going to have my life back. I'm going to be
Yeah.
a real person with less pain. And I was pumped because I never had to use birth control again. And like, I had an IUD, and that also was not great with endo. I don't know if anyone else experiences that, but I was like,
Hmm.
this is the worst combo.
I
But
know they say that IUDs are like the best birth control for endo, but like I don't know. I can't have the only type of birth control I can have is an IUD because I have a blood clotting disorder. Um, so I guess I don't really know, but they're the aftermath is like rough after getting it put in for a
yeah,
while. Like feel like I'm on my third one right now, and I swear to God, this last one was horrendous getting it put in. Uh, Trigger warning to anybody who is getting a IUD soon. Maybe don't listen to this because there's a lot of really good positive stories, but this is not one. So uh but yeah, they had to dilate my cervix and to get the old one out and then put the new one in. And I was like, this is my third time, like I will be okay. It was awful. I was having like actual contractions,
Yeah.
and they had like an intrauterine like ultrasound, the wand, like in me as well after they put the new IUD in, because I was literally having contractions. Like I was sweating and I was freezing and I was like shaking and like felt like I was gonna
Yep.
throw up and poop at the same time. I was like, this is not good. I'm like, the guys. And I had like three nurses around me, and they were like, okay, we're gonna do the ultrasound because we have to see like what's going on. Because they like thought I was being dramatic. I was like, I'm gonna throw up or something. Like, I can't do this. And the doctor was like, oh yeah, like you're actually, I can see your contractions on the monitor. And I was like, the fuck? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, so just keep laying there and we'll get you like a cold towel and also a heating pad at the same time. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like something is wrong. And she was like, no, no, don't. You're not gonna go to the bathroom. Just sit there. Because she was like, you're gonna end up like pushing it out, and we're not. Because then I'm gonna have to put the IUD back in. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, I can't do this. So as you can imagine, that was rough,
Yeah.
borderline traumatizing. And then I went home after. I had to sit there for an hour and like wait for my body to like chill out. Went home after, and I had like the worst cramps for like 2 weeks. And I could like, it was almost like I could feel the IUD in my body. I was like, I've never really been able to feel it before, but I'm like, I just don't feel like it's in the right place. It's been like a year
Mhm.
and a half now, and I think I actually have not gotten it checked. I probably should. So I'm like, I don't know, but yeah,
Yikes.
IUDs.
Yeah. What Lexi said. It's not always bad, but
No, it's not. But
also please note that you can ask your provider to do it under like twilight anesthesia or
mm-hmm.
agents because it does
Yeah,
kind of suck.
you definitely can. And they also, it's a lot more common now for you to get like a numbing shot like in your cervix. And they did ask me when she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to dilate you because I can't get the IUD out." She was like, "Do you want me to give you a shot?" And but it happened. She was like, "Yes or no, like right now." And I was like, I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "No, I guess," because I'm terrified of needles. So like split second decision, the thought of a needle like going up my hoo-ha
Oh, yeah.
scared me. So I was like, "No." But I kind of wish I would have, because maybe it wouldn't have been as bad, but I don't know. That freaked me out. I don't know.
No, girl, that sounds horrible. I'm sorry. That is like your body went into shock and they're like, "No, no, you're fine."
I know they're like, why are you freaking out? And I'm like, I can't like control my body right now. I was like literally like having like straight up like shakes, and it was so bad. I mean, yeah. Definitely, I don't think that I know what birth feels like, but I think I know what maybe like like labor. I don't know, something. It was rough. It
No,
was
your body
rough.
was in labor. That's the whole point. Is that's why she said that she was worried about you pushing it out because that happens with people's IUDs. Is your uterus literally goes and gives birth to the tiny IUD.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
terrifying.
I
Good
know.
job, Lexi.
I
You did
know.
so
I
good.
I got through it. We got through it, and I did not birth the IUD. So I think I still have it. I haven't checked. I should get it checked, but oh my gosh. Anyways, um oh God. Okay.
Hold that to say, I'm doing fine. Thanks for
Good.
asking.
Good. Yeah. Um so are you on like I don't know. I guess I don't know what like the process of the surgical menopause looks like, because when you go through menopause as an adult, like your hormone load is different at that point. So do you have to take like any hormone supplements or anything like that? Or you're just
I'm not raw dogging menopause because that sounds awful.
okay. Yeah.
I don't recommend, but I people who are able to do that, I lay more props to you. I could not. But I currently do estrogen patches, so like HRT, and I do
Hmm.
those twice a week, and they help just mitigate some of the symptoms. Like menopause comes with like the obvious things like hot flashes and
Hmm.
like sex drive and all those things. I feel like when you think of menopause, you're like, right, you're like older. So all
Hmm.
those things make sense. But like estrogen also plays a really big role in your bones.
Hmm.
So I am mostly on HRT to make sure that my bones do not deteriorate because that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise I'm yeah, taking a lot of supplements to kind of help my body, but the HRT is really doing the heavy
Yeah.
lifting
The
so
heavy
that I'm
lifting.
not the
Hmm.
worst.
Hmm. Do you have like what are your symptoms or what were your symptoms like after surgery, the hot flashes, and what were some of the big ones?
Oh, the hot flashes are like the worst. I try to describe them to people as if you've ever gotten an IV with contrast, it's the
Oh,
feeling when you get
yeah.
the contrast. For me at least, because it literally starts out and it's
No.
always the first 5 milliseconds. I go, I can handle this. I'm just a little warm. And then the rest of it courses through my body and I go, no, 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 no. I need to leave. I need a fan. I need everyone to give me a second. But yeah, not my favorite. I literally started having them like 24 hours after my surgery. I was so mad.
God.
But most of it, like a lot of it is I know you said we could swear, but you didn't say anything about sex. So what am I allowed to say here?
Yeah, you can talk freely. You're good.
Saying you can talk freely was a very professional way to answer that. Uh, like a lot of it was like my sex drive like immediately tanked, and one of the things is
Hmm.
like your ovaries play a really big part in your hormones, obviously, and that is like if you're wanting to
Hmm.
get it on, it helps make sure that everything is working properly to do said activities. And like it was just really weird to be my age and like almost immediately feel like I was a 50-year-old woman that was like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm tired and I would like to go to bed. Which is funny because I literally acted like a 12-year-old boy prior. So yeah, it was really weird. But I'd say the hot flashes and then just like hormonally, I felt really off. But otherwise, I mean, all my bones click now, which I think is really funny.
Huh.
But yeah, really fun.
Yeah. So I did Orlissa for which for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, it's essentially like a chemical menopause. And I did that for I think I did it for 6 months and then I just had the side effects I couldn't do. Like it was basically all menopause symptoms. Like I was getting hot flashes. They weren't as bad as that. I have had contrast and that is awful. Um, but they weren't quite that bad. But I would get like really, really hot, but then I would also get really, really cold. It was like I would get like cold sweats and I'm like, I can't. And I was 20 when I was doing this. Um, it also like something that people just like don't talk about is like your if you're in a relationship, like it is really hard for your partner and you, but like it obviously you would assume that your partners are supportive. Like my partner was supportive of me, but it's hard to tell like a 20-year-old that like I'm essentially going through menopause and like I need you to like be there for me through that and like he was but my mood swings were psychotic like it was like I would come over like we were not living together, we were in college, but I would like come over, I would like my mood swings were cray cray and I would like cry I like everything. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I cannot. So yeah, Orlissa only lasted like 6 months. And honestly, I don't really think I got like symptom relief from it because I was still getting cramps. I guess maybe not as bad, but like I was still getting pretty bad cramps. Um, and on top of that, I had all these like new symptoms from the medication, and I'm like, okay. I also I have a blood clotting disorder, like I said, so like hormones are a no-go for me. And this medication did have some hormones in it, so I started getting like bruising, like superficial blood clots, like all over my legs. My legs were like completely bruised up. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like this is not worth it for me. So yeah. I don't know what anyone else, if anyone has had chemical menopause or surgical menopause, like DM me
Sound
because
off.
I'm curious, like what people's symptoms were, if they like liked Orlissa or didn't, because it wreaked
Yeah,
havoc on my body.
I wonder if it's worth it for anyone because I know that
Hmm.
my OB suggested that to me before we did surgery, but the people I had talked to were like the side effects were not worth it, and it did not give me like if it was like some miracle drug that like you had all these
Yeah.
horrible side effects but you weren't in pain anymore, like hell yeah, concrete, like let's do that. But it's
Well,
not.
I feel like at that point, like for you, if you already wanted a hysterectomy and your doctor was like, okay, well, we could do Orlissa like instead, I would have done the surgery because Orlissa is basically like a band-aid. And then you would have gone through this again. Like you would have gotten the surgery eventually and you would have gone through the symptoms again. So it's like putting your body through it twice. So yeah, I think you made the right choice on that.
Thanks. I hearing your experience, I'm like, that's a good point. I would have just gone through it twice. So
Yeah, you would have. And yeah, I guess I will go through menopause for real at some point. But
sure, but I mean, our bodies are supposed to do that, I guess. I hear that in at some point it like kind of levels
hmm
out.
hmm
So pumped for that.
Yeah, I know menopause can last like I I wonder what that stat is. I remember my aunt, I feel like she's been
Probably
going
like
through
10 years.
menopause. Yeah, I feel like she's been going through menopause for like the past 5 years. Sorry, my I'm not gonna say her name, but if you're listening, I guess I just kind of outed her, but
LOL.
but yeah, I feel like she's been going through menopause for like the last 5 years, and I'm like, I kind of thought this was like a year, and you're out of this, but like it's not. It can last a while. Um, Interesting. So, what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced post-surgery? I guess like emotionally or physically.
That is a great question. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest thing oh, is it Kikat?
Oh, yeah, she's
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
no, 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 you're good. She's at my feet.
Oh, cute. Sorry. I was like, "Oh, what?" I'm so sorry. God, I'm like that dog from Up where they go squirrel. Squirrel. Um, I think one of the biggest challenges that I run into or ran into is kind of explaining to my family my decision, and also like it's really weird for my family and friends to conceptualize where my body is at in any given moment. And I think
Hmm.
that's the same for anyone with chronic illness. You're like, "Hey, I have this thing," and they go, "You didn't have that thing a couple years ago," and you go, "No, I did. I just wasn't
Yeah.
handling it properly."
Yeah.
So yeah, really weird to like have a hot flash at a family gathering and have them be like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm having a hot flash." And they're like, "You can't be having hot flashes." And I was like, "Actually, I really can. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
ovaries, so that's how this works."
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you have like a support system like through this? And I mean, I know you have the podcast and you have your Instagram, which I feel like is my community. I have a support system, but like my sense of community comes from that. So, how has like your support system or community kind of played a role in this journey?
I have a great partner. I'm married, and They are my favorite person.
I didn't
So
know you were married.
yeah, I'm
Aw.
yeah, it's been like 3 years. So
Wow.
I don't mention it a lot. They're not social media publicly
Hmm.
facing people, so
Hmm.
I just mention them as like an abstract being on the internet. But yeah, I'm married. My partner's fantastic. Dealt with all of my mood swings and
Hmm.
is like the sweetest person. It's like I like come home and I like breathe wrong and there's suddenly a heating pad on the bed and like ice cold water and I'm like,
Aw.
this is great. So yeah, I mostly have my partner and then a lot of my friends. I'm in California, and as adulthood becomes adulthood, your friends tend to spread out. So
Yeah.
a lot of my friends are my support system, but they are like out of state. So it's very much, I literally have my best friend on the podcast, and I was like, I'm so glad you're here. This is basically just a video call that I'm recording for the public. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of friends and partner, family is trying their best.
Yeah. I love that. What do you wish people understood better about, I guess, surgical menopause? Or maybe even like wanting to get a hysterectomy at a younger age? Like, what do you wish people knew or understood?
Well, if you are looking to get a hysterectomy, I think it's really good to figure out what kind you want. So if you want a total hysterectomy, which is just your uterus, or if you want a radical hysterectomy, which is just earthing, like I didn't know that you could opt to take out your cervix as well, and that way you don't have to get pap smears anymore.
Yeah,
So
I didn't know that either.
great choice. I've never had a pap smear in my life, and I never will. But like I think it's really good to do research and also, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, bring a binder of like research and
Hmm.
be obnoxious because you should be allowed to do what you want. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would also like to say for people, you asked what I would like to tell the people about surgical menopause. Uh, I would say that it is not a cure for endometriosis. And so I think
Yeah.
18-year-old me was a little too optimistic that it would fix everything. And like, I'm still very happy with my choice, but it wasn't like a cure all.
Hmm.
So I really wish that people were aware that, yeah, like endometriosis is not just like your uterus, which you know that, like, obviously you have this podcast, you're like sitting here,
Yeah.
yes, I know. But
Um, yeah. Endo is a full body inflammatory disease, which is why like earlier, when we started talking about your menopause, and getting your surgery and stuff, I was like basically trying to flesh out if you're still having symptoms. Because some people like, I mean, it's only been 2 years since your surgery, so you could be going, I don't want to sound uh pessimistic, but I'm like, you could also, I don't know, I was like, maybe she's not having symptoms and you could, they could come back still. But yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, super weird to not have a uterus, not have ovaries, and still be sitting here in pain, and then like already having to like conceptualize that in my own mind and then having to explain it to other people is like the worst. Like
Yep.
I was on a family trip and I literally was having the worst cramps of my entire life. And I got out a heating pad and I was just sitting in the living room chatting with everyone. And then they were like, "Oh, are you on your period?" And I was like, "Oh no." And they were like,
Yeah.
"Okay." Like it's so weird to explain to people that
I
it's
know.
not that.
I know it's like a weird concept to understand, but I mean, essentially, the way that I tell people is like a hysterectomy isn't a cure for endo because it's endo. I mean, that's the whole point of endo, right? Is that it's not in your uterus. So
Right.
it's all over the place. And if they're just taking out your uterus and your ovaries and those organs and stuff, and if they don't get everything, which most of the time they can't, it's not like they have uh like a glow in the dark something
Oh, that'd be so
that would be
cool
so cool. But like
if
something
you
that
just
like
like
signals endo that they're like, oh, I can go get all these pieces. Like it's not that easy. So the odds of them getting everything is not high. And then, you know, you can still have symptoms because there's still endo in there.
yeah, I like to call mine Venom, which Venom 2 is or 3 is out in theaters, but I call it Venom because it's like a parasite. You leave
Yeah.
literally one piece and it's suddenly everywhere in your body.
Yep. It do be like that. It just grows. It's like, let me go here, let me go here. Um, Last couple of questions for you. Uh, do you have any advice for other people considering this as a treatment option? Which I know that we've talked about how it's not a cure, but I do think that, like if you don't want kids or maybe you're after kids or anything like that, it could be a treatment option. So, do you have any advice for people that might be going towards that route? Like,
Yeah, I think wait, go, sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it doesn't any advice, like post-surgery, pre-surgery, it doesn't have to be like crazy.
Okay. I was like, okay, I can do tips and tricks if that's what we're asking.
Yeah,
Uh, I think have a really fluffy pillow for after surgery. I got a squishmallow. I get a new squishmallow every time I get a new surgery because I retail therapy and also
I
because
love
I need
that.
a pillow.
Yeah, a
And
reward.
yeah, I get a little treat. Uh, oh, speaking of little treats, do not eat for the first 3 hours after your surgery. I know you're hungry. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I threw up. I threw up after getting abdominal surgery. Worst
Oh,
experience of my life. So
yeah, that sounds awful.
no, I got Chick-fil-A zero point 0.5 seconds after getting out of the hospital. Regretted it immediately.
Mm, yeah.
It was really good, but not worth it. So if that's my tips and tricks, it's that. And then, yeah, also just take it easy afterwards. Like,
hmm
don't rush yourself, especially if you are doing a hysterectomy. It's 8 weeks of recovery. And, like, you can't even pick up grocery bags. Like, just
Yeah.
if you think you can do it, no, you can't. Ask someone else.
Yeah. It's not an easy recovery. I know. I would highly, highly suggest listening to what your doctors are telling you because there's a reason for that. Like, very much don't lift things. Okay. And where can people find you if they want to hang out with you?
Yeah, if they want to come chill in the sickest club. Uh, so my handle is chronically the sickest underscore podcast.
hmm
And yeah, if you like Lexi's podcast, you'll probably like mine. But
hmm
come hang out. I'm also on TikTok, all the things. But if you just go to my Instagram, there's a link tree because that's how this works.
Okay, perfect. And then in your link tree, there's a link to your podcast too. Is your podcast on like every platform or what is it on?
36 platforms, baby. It's on all the main ones. So like Spotify, Apple,
hmm
Amazon. Yeah.
All the things.
Thanks for
Perfect.
checking.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Is there anything else you want to tell the people? Anything else you want to say?
Just that everyone's doing great. Lexi, you're doing great. I'm pumped that I got to be on the podcast and
Me
chill and
too.
talk.